Shout out to Chiquito, purveyor of fine kombucha donations since 2018, I think. Hello, developers. It's hot in my neck of the woods. I'm schwitzing. I thoroughly disapprove of any temperature above 78 degrees. So I'm cooped up at RTC HQ, hanging out with you on this otherwise wonderful Friday. TGIF, woo, we made it. How are you doing? Let me get into my YouTube studio and we're gonna talk about today's topic. I have a few quickie announcements. Oh, you think I'm messing around? This in my grubby little fingers is a screenshot from the landing page on realtoughcandy.io. This is my new learning platform. Oh, we are working hard on this. More details coming soon, which I say in every video, but I don't want to give too much away. What I can tell you is that I can tell you a lot, actually. So what I can tell you, and to make it really quick, is that we're going to have monthly memberships, yearly memberships, and a la carte options. We have a royalty-free library of photos, high-def videos, and music that you can use in your projects for even commercial use. The only stipulation is that you have to be a member or former member of realtoughcandy.io. Exclusive mini courses. We're debuting with 5 full expansive courses. Let me read them off real quick. Portfolio surgery. We're going to make that portfolio pop and have employers interested in your projects. There's 5 techniques we go through. This is a hands-on course. These are all hands-on courses. Freelance newbie, how to get a job in web development. Those are both getting some facelifts, some tweaks. Practical UX UI for web developers. Professional communication for junior developers. I just wrapped that course up with one of my co-creators. I love it. It's just such a great course and I cannot wait to unveil this platform. So that's enough self-promotion for now. Let's go into the YouTube settings here and see what everyone's up to, if you can even hear me, because that would suck if you couldn't. I think Discord is actually down right now because today's topic is inspired by something that popped up in the Discord yesterday by a Durga. Discord is not available, so I can't confirm that's that person's name, but I think it was Durga. 21 people here. Developers, who do we have in the chat? Paradoodly says, that's a big drink. Oh yeah, it is. It's so delicious though. Donovan, what's going on? Nice to see you. Rebecca, how's it going? Gamps8, hey, what's up? Hologram Nunchuck, always good to see you. Sarah's here. Hi, Sarah. Sarah and Paradoodly Do are our mods extraordinaire on Discord, and now they're modding on the YouTubes. So thanks to you two wonderful mods. Also, Michael Kornblum is another mod. He said he'd be popping in, so excited to see him there. So today's topic, being a software developer can't be that hard, right? Anyone who has studied programming has probably heard this from a family member, a coworker at their in their current industry. A lot of career changers on this channel and involved in Real Tough Candy goings-ons. Family, coworkers, clients. If you're doing freelancing stuff, how hard can it be? So today we're going to talk about this. I don't know what you would call it. This common misconception. Hold on, I have to open this door. It is too freaking hot in here. I'm just getting crabby. This common misconception, maybe share some stories in the live stream about your experience with this misconception, because this is a main one. So if you don't have a lot of time and you have someone in your life who thinks that being a developer is easy, how hard can it be? Let me tell you something. Please share this timestamp. Our job is very intense and difficult. We are continuously studying, continuously reading up, continuously training to make sure the web works and other software works. One of the most interesting things about being a web developer because I mostly do web development, but software and web, the web is now one big piece of software. And we see little applications, some big applications, some medium-sized applications sprinkled throughout. So I think software is just more all-encompassing. And honestly, I think a lot of us too can say we've worked on projects that are not necessarily related to the web, that don't have an IP address component to them. So this is a common thing that I get from just about everyone, no matter what the context, is that I used to say I'm a web developer, right? So what do? You know, you go to appointments, you go out in public, you're just talking to that person at the grocery store. So what do you do? What? I'm a web developer. And then the blank stare, you see the eyes start to swirl on that other person. And they hear the term developer and they think you build houses in suburbs. I don't build houses in suburbs. And so you try to explain, no, I build websites, but it's not really that. Like, I also build, I code. Oh, you code like medical coding? No, not like medical. I'm not a medical coder. I do this and I do this and I do this and make pretty pictures and make people click on things. It's really hard to have a term that describes what we do succinctly and normal person friendly. The other challenge we have is that because using the internet is so easy, no one really sees our process. It's so seamless. And we have a lot of seams that we create as software developers, as web developers. We're creating a lot of little marks and a lot of scars and a lot of things we're trying to smooth out, buff out. The users don't see that. They rarely see that. Now, if you go to a website stuck in the 90s, there's still a lot of sites out there in the wild that haven't been updated for 15, 20 years, but 90s going into the early 2000s even. You see some of these sites and then you're like, oh my goodness, this is terrible. And then you start seeing those seams. But for the modern web, everything's so beautiful. You don't even have to double click anything. You don't have to hear a phone dial tone. There's not a lot of people using dial-up internet in 2020. And it's so seamless that people think, and this is where the Discord conversation comes in, people think it's easy because their experience is easy. It's like, no, it's easy because it's engineered. It was brilliantly engineered. Now, to be fair, there are a lot of non-brilliant engineering components about the web. However, for the most part, from a user standpoint, the internet is non-cerebral. It's a utility. It's like flipping on a switch. And one universal truth is that you don't need to know how electricity works in order to use it. Same thing with the internet. People are just swiping left. People are flipping on a switch, turning on a faucet. This is the new school version of a utility. And so those people are never exposed to how tough it is just to get a simple web application deployed, just to get a simple CRUD app. Now, if you're doing a CRUD app from scratch, it takes a long time. Plus the testing in browsers, testing its functionality, just testing from a UX UI standpoint, seeing if the users are going where they need to be going with the navigation, breadcrumbs. Oh, UX UI is just so huge, but we have these libraries and things. We have stuff like Bootstrap where it's non-cerebral. As developers even, we can just click, boop, there we go. And so there's this perception that our job is easy because their experience is easy. Let me go to the comments because there's so much more to talk about with this. I've even had the more you get into this career, the more you realize this is really infinite. Sometimes I do get the occasional comment from a developer, people, I've never met them, so I don't know for sure, but they say, oh, this career isn't that hard. Really? Maybe for you, but I think for most of us who are actually work in the career field, it's hard. It's tough. It's difficult. Let's go to the comments. Donovan says, what's strange to me is web development is on the same level as software developer. It's strange to me to have the title software developer from a web developer. Yeah, you know, that's another interesting thing too. Michael Kornblum is in the chat. What's up? And Mr. Fosbear. What's up, Mr. Fosco? Look at, this one's for Mr. Foz. Developers, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Tell YouTube that this channel deserves to be here. I love it. I love chatting with you. I love interacting. Let's keep it going. Donovan brought up something interesting about the terms web developer, software developer. And a big part of this is the fact that we don't need to be certified web developers in order to have a job. Whereas in other professional career fields, like, okay, you're going to be an attorney, you have to pass the bar exam, among many other things. But that's like the standard. That's the big thing that you have to do, pass the bar before you can even consider calling yourself an attorney. I've seen people call themselves software engineers and they're just coding static sites. Now that is probably a job title their company gave them to make them sound more important. And it's just silly. Like, your job is already important, building static sites. You don't have to call yourself an engineer. I think people want to feel more validation if they call themselves an engineer. And so we have that issue where it's like, there's like a big imposter syndrome issue because some people have studied engineering for 6 to 8 years. They have their PhDs in engineering and they're working on YouTube's algorithm or whatever. They're working at NASA, etc. And some people, I mean, most people do feel that one point or another in their career as software developers, like, I didn't graduate from college. I don't want to look like that person who doesn't know enough. And that's one of the pitfalls of this career, is that it always feels like you're never catching up. That is something that's super challenging. But to go back to the point that these companies will say, these companies don't have a standardized way or any sort of direction from like a government entity or whatever, or like some enforcement group to be like, unless you have this certification, you can't call yourself an engineer or developer, whatever. If a company says you're an engineer, then that's what you are in this field. If a company says you're a web developer, that's what you are. If a company says you're a software developer, that's what you are. But there are, I don't know. It's just an interesting thing to me. It's just an interesting thing because there is never going to be a consensus on what we really are. And I think that's one of the big problems too, with people getting these ideas that software development can't be that hard. Because we throw around these terms so willy-nilly, there's no certifying body. And we do have standards in each. Someone was trying to argue with me about this point the other week. It's like, you're missing the point. He or she was saying, we do have standards. What are, JavaScript standards or coding standards? I don't mean coding standards. I mean standards to be certified as a software developer or an engineer or whatever. There aren't any. And that's what's really unique about this career field, is that this is a 6-figure career field, and it's one of the few where you don't need to be certified. And that's really exciting because not everyone can afford to be certified with a 4-year degree or 6-year degree or whatever, or even pay for some of these certifications, which in other career fields, certifications can cost multiple thousands of dollars, especially if you need to take courses in order to get that certificate. Yeah, it adds up. This is just such a unique career field, and it adds to people not really getting what we do. Is Discord up yet? Because I really want to screen share our conversation we had the other day about this job being easy. And if you're just tuning in, welcome. Welcome new subscribers. We are rocking it in the Discord. I love our Discord so much, and I wish I could share it right now, but it looks like it's still unavailable. I swear, I went on at 4:17 p.m. Discord crashed at 4:15. I can't. What's going on in these chats? Code Zero says, do you fear no code or low code platforms? Are they formidable, or is it all marketing hype? Code Zero, I need to be honest here. I think the no code is strictly marketing. Now, I've tried Webflow, and Webflow was actually, Webflow's, not them directly, but one of their agents reached out to me about a collaboration. So that's what sparked me to actually research Webflow and see what it was all about. Because I'm not going to partner with another company unless I, number one, believe in what they're doing, and number two, it's just it has to be a good match. And number three, I got to know what they're doing. So I checked out Webflow, and for those who don't know, Webflow is the prime candidate for the no code movement. This is where no code sprung from, this platform. And basically Webflow is, I know I'm going to get some hate for this, but I just see it as a drag and drop 2.0. It has some really cool features. I've seen some great layouts and great designs with Webflow. With the grid, I've seen some killer grid and maybe even a few Flexbox, but definitely some CSS grid layouts and designs. Oh, they are really nice looking with Webflow, but at the end of the day, underneath this layer is still a bunch of code. And I don't, even if it was on the level of what a mid-level developer is capable of, even if it was, because Webflow, to my understanding, you can't just like drag and drop backend components and have a full stack app. From my understanding, Webflow is still just front end stuff. So just your drag and drop, WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get type editing. Like, oh, bloop, put a photo there, bloop, let's put some photos here, make a grid. It's not like you have a control panel of node modules or node functions that you can just drag and drop. Like, yes, put this little chunk of code here, and then what I want you to do is this. It's not that amazing just yet from what I've researched, but that would be really cool. But the no code movement, I think, is mostly hype, and I don't think even if it could match the talent of a mid-level developer, we'd still need actual developers to go into the code base, because the nuance just isn't there with these drag and drops. It's just not there. There's just, you know what grinds my gears is paying a monthly fee for Photoshop. And every month I say, man, what am I paying this for? What am I paying, whatever, or however much I pay for Photoshop? I use it regularly, but I never use their advanced features. I use it for thumbnails and maybe like the occasional meme when I'm bored. But my alternative is open source illustration platform, open source illustration software like GIMP. And I like GIMP. I think it does the uber basics just fine, but I need something just a little more. And that's kind of where I see no code stuff versus actual developers. Like the gold standard are actual people who are coding, just as Photoshop is the gold standard for photo editing and some graphics editing, but mostly obviously known for photos because it's called Photoshop. But until I don't see the gold standard in our industry shifting anytime soon to something like Webflow. But don't get me wrong, I've seen some cool layouts, but how much time would you save? Could you save a lot of time just doing it yourself? Like, we have a lot of tools that already help us create nice looking grids. Let's see. Jeff B, what's up? Who else is here? John B, Zelda. Just checking who's in the chat right now. Candace, how's it going? Alex V. Alex says, hey, completely new to your channel. I'm interested in making transition into development career-wise. Can you break down what UX UI are and how they fit in software and or web development? I would be happy to. And shameless promotion, self-promotion at that. UX UI for, is it web developers? I've changed the title. UX UI for web developers is one of my courses. I'm working on that one. Next week, UX UI, user, so UX is user experience, UI is user interface. And user experience is what happens to you when you're navigating a web application or a website. The interface is what you see, what you hear, what comes through your senses. So the interface of Facebook.com's landing page would be their simple, what is it, like 2 or 3, I haven't logged, Facebook is a bad example. The interface of Facebook.com where you log in is a very clean interface. And for most people, it's generally a very pleasant experience because you can just log in very quickly. That's the UX, the user experience. Trying to think of some more examples of our day-to-day. You know what's not a very good interface, in my opinion, is Amazon.com. That interface on Amazon.com has so many options. And under normal circumstances, people would be critiquing it left and right. But because it's Amazon, it is that exception, like, oh, they're so successful. That interface is very messy. If you go there, just go to the submenus. There's hundreds of options. And I'm just like, whoa, I'm just trying to find my thing. So my experience with that is not a very good one. However, I still buy things there because I can't find them in my local area, or I'm just lazy and want to buy something right away and need it tomorrow. So every time we go to a web app, every time we go to a website, there is an interface. The colors. So part of interfaces can be components like dialog boxes, modals, colors, font weights, designs, layouts like CSS grid or Flexbox. All of these components contribute to an interface. And even if in our daily lives, when you go to pump gas, the interface is the numbers that pop up when you've hit a gallon of gas and you just see like, ooh, it's like a slot machine or something. That's the interface. The experience there is generally pretty easy too, pretty slick, because you're getting that real-time feedback. And in a couple of minutes, you can go from 0 to a full tank. So interfaces aren't just online, they're everywhere. The interface when you swipe a credit card at a store, that little box is your interface, that little printout where it says, are you sure you'd like to authorize this? Are you sure you are who you say you are? Boop. That's the interface. Generally pretty good experience, unless your card gets declined. So those are just a ton of examples. And how they relate to web development is that people stick around and people come back when they have good experiences. And one of the only ways you can have a good experience with a web app is when you have a very nice interface, or at least an acceptable interface. And if your interface is poorly designed, people aren't going to want to click. They're not going to want to share. They're not going to want to come back. So UX UI is very important. It's very important in the real world of software development, web development, because these are the things, the clicks, the shares, the add to cart, the checkout, the repeated functions. Those are the things that are making you money on your web app or your website. You've been to sites where Daily Mail has a terrible interface and a terrible experience. Like I can't even go there on my phone because it crashes. You could use an ad blocker, sure. But if you don't use an ad blocker, even on desktop, it's just like boom, 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 boom. All these ads are just like, where's the actual content? Bad interface. That's an example of a poor interface. Most of these news sites have very poor interfaces and consequently poor experiences. And I know this was a tangent, but it's a really good question. And so in this course, Practical UX UI, we go through how to mock up, prototype, how to convert prototypes to code, fully functional code, wireframes, all that kind of stuff, and converting it into code because we are developers. Great question. Let's see. Hey, what's up? Not just a nerd. Good to see some more people filing in. Patrick B. Welcome. Curtis Davis. Welcome. Curtis Davis says, yes, Amazon, I'm lost. Totally, right? Like, I don't even dare look at what some of these things are, because you go to one little menu and it takes up the entire length of the page. Like from top to bottom, it's like, how am I supposed to navigate that? I'm not a Prime member anymore. I gave it up. I said, no, I'm not even gonna support Amazon. I've been trying more and more to shop in person and shop local and save small business, especially after Aunt Rona, during Aunt Rona. You know, I still shop there, but it's just like, listen, I don't need the Prime. I just don't. And so I'm even clicking less, thankfully, because it's just too much. Is Chiquito here yet? I need to thank him for this watermelon wonder. But let's get back to our topic. Being a software developer can't be that hard, right? And the UX UI thing really does fit in with what we do, because this is another component of our job that no one realizes. The common person, I mean, most of what we do is so abstract that it's really hard explaining in the first place. But then you get to the job site and you find out, oh, there's not a UX UI department. I guess I'm the one doing UX UI. Oh, there's not an analytics department. I guess I'm the one doing analytics. Like, these roles and responsibilities add up really quickly, and we're juggling a lot of roles, especially if you're at a smaller company, a family-owned business or something, where they don't have the budget or the interest in these departments. You're doing it. How do you explain all that stuff to a normal person? How hard can it be? Let me check this Discord, because I really want to get to this conversation. Yes, Discord is on, people. Destiny. I'm going to share my screen here in just a sec. Welcome, new subscribers, and thanks for tuning in. If you're completely new here, my name's RTC. I'm a software developer, and I have a YouTube channel that you're watching right now. And I love to share web development, software development, any kinds of development that involves a computer, but mostly web stuff. That's what I started with, and that's my specialty. So that's what I usually talk about. However, we have been known to delve into the unknown, game development, some mobile talk here and there. Oh my gosh, seriously? Discord is messing with me. It says connecting. Well, anyway, yes, okay, we're on. We're totally on. I'm in general. Come on, populate. So basically the other day, this person named Durga, shout out to Durga, mentioned that there's a lot of customer dissatisfaction in this industry. And this person asked, why do you think that is? Let me go up here to the actual section, and I'm going to share my screen. All right, let me get this going. Share Safari. No, where are you? Here you go. All right. Can you all see that? So Durga said yesterday, have y'all noticed that there's a pretty low customer satisfaction in the website industry? Clients often complain and they seem not to get what they want. Why do y'all think that is? And then Balanced Son said, because most likely the site is rushed out. A lot of code shops are just rushing code to production. And then I said, in my freelancing experience, people who thought the work was easy were the first to voice their dissatisfaction. Why is this taking so long? How hard can this be? I also had this issue sometimes with clients who had a very specific idea in mind, but maybe didn't articulate it the best. Those were the two biggest things I encountered, especially my first year freelancing. And what can really help? This goes for family, friends, people who think, whoops, I'm jumping all over. I'm still screen sharing. This goes for family, friends, people who think your job's easy. If you start explaining the process, some people start catching on like, oh, I didn't know it was that hard. Really? That's what you do? Yeah, that's what I do. 5 to 7 days a week, every month. That's what I do. Once you start giving them insight into that process, then a lot, some if not a lot, start catching on. And then S. Cochran says exactly that. They see a pretty mock-up done in Photoshop or something and think the work is already done or mostly done. They think of the website as a pretty picture, like a brochure, but it always costs far more and takes far longer to produce than a brochure. Mm-hmm. And then S. Cochran made a great point here that a lot of people just see building a web page or a website as a brochure rather than an application. Just like an online little three pamphlet, or what do you call those things? Like folded in three? Yeah, just a little, I guess, a brochure. little brochure, just open it up. That's not hard to produce on paper. How hard can it be to do it online? Well, if you do a template, if you have one saved, not very hard. But the first time you do it, yes, it is difficult. It is more difficult than most tasks in life. Archbiker said, I'll add that many people from freelancers, sales, project managers overpromise and undeliver. Not all, but it's common. I think in order to make customers and clients happy in the present, they underestimate or overpromise what they can deliver in a time frame instead of being honest. I've seen that too. And so it just ruins clients' trust. I mean, it just destroys trust because some people are afraid to say like, yeah, actually, this is going to take 2 months. What do you mean it's going to take 2 months? My son can do it for free in an hour. It's like, how many times have I heard that? My son or daughter could do it for free. Okay. And then that just comes down to yourself. If you're a freelancer and someone says that to you, there is a way to respond to that. But it's also up to you how much you want to deal with that kind of attitude. Because when people get hostile, and this is just me, I have other things to do. I have other money to make and I have other income streams I can tend to rather than baby a customer. And I mean, everyone has to go through that, like their first 6 months or a year where they're dealing with these people. That's where you learn your communication skills. That's where you learn more about your process. And that's where even you realize like, ooh, this is a little harder than I thought. Freelancing is difficult too. There's a lot of troubles, a lot of things that can go wrong. Let's see. S. Cochran, this comment resonates with me really strongly. Right up there with what would it take? What would it take to just add some e-commerce functionality from scratch? What would it take? That's a trigger phrase for me. Had a boss that would only ask that question after having promised the feature as well as a timeline and price to the customer. Yeah, I mean, I agree too, as when I was in enterprise, that happens sometimes, but it happens mostly with me in freelancing. So, and when people say that, I just start just tense up and shudder because you're going to be debating and breaking things down, and it might get a little emotional. Countering client objections is one of the hardest things for me as a freelancer. 1 or 2, okay. But the salvo of like 7, 8 questions that question my capabilities when I'm clearly capable, I just won't. And that was like one of the things in my first year of freelancing, which I've discussed at length in my freelance video on this channel. Just disrespect. And you know, I make enough now where I don't have to be disrespected in order to make money. So it gets better, as the public service announcement says. Let's go to the chat here. Michael Kornblum says, here's the thing, many open source developers suffer from the same lack of awareness. How many feature requests can someone stand without some form of recognition, donations, etc.? Interesting. That's an interesting comment too. How many feature requests can someone stand without some form of recognition, donations, etc.? You know, I love open source, but for the most part, unless you're Evan You, it just doesn't pay the bills. And we went into this conversation a couple months ago. It was a great observation about, in the form of a question, whatever happened to people just enjoying code as a hobby? We had a great conversation about that and why that is these days. And the short and sweet of it is that because this is where the money is. And once the powers that be discover where a money source is, watch out, you might get trampled. But there are a lot of people who enjoy coding for fun. Since I started taking up this career field, my time is at a premium and I don't have a lot of time to just relax with code because I am doing it. You know, I'm in front of a computer 7 days a week doing work. So one of the last things I want to do is work on a personal project when I could be outside or like, you know, just doing something relaxing. I don't find open source to be the relaxing refuge that it was, that it once was for me, unfortunately. A few years ago, I was all about it, and you know, just like just starving to contribute to these things, but I just don't have time. And going back to the thing about open source not paying the bills, you know, I might have a different attitude if it did pay the bills. I might dedicate more time to that, but you know, the donor boxes on GitHub repos only go so far. Like I said, unless you're Evan Yu or one of these other big names, it's going to be tough. Patreons are going to have to step up their game with open source people, which, by the way, shout out to my patrons. Such a great group of people. They've been really supporting the channel, and my channel members. We have a few channel members in this chat today: Candace, Donovan, and I'm sure a few other people. So thank you so much for your support. Gabe El Cinco. Gabe, you're always changing your name on me. I love it. It's so funny. Gabe the Fifth. Gabe El Cinco. I blame sci-fi movies that show every movie coder character is a servant programmer that hates the man. Right? Yes. And this was, I mean, this was a stereotype from the frickin' 80s. Remember that? What was that movie? My 80s people are going to know this right off the bat with Matthew Broderick. Even my pre-80s or post-80s people, this is like a very well-known movie. Is it War Games? Anyways, it's like, it's an early 80s movie with Matthew Broderick, and he has his own little PC at home. He didn't even dial up. It was before dial up. What was it? Maybe it was dial up. And I forget what the protocol was called. Anyways, he hacks in and does all this crazy stuff, and wow, he just makes it so simple. And that's a great point. People, so many millions of people, their impression of what we do is based on a Hollywood stereotype. What we do is not nearly as heart-pounding as like what Angelina Jolie is doing in 1996. Like, it's not that just rapid fire. We're going like this for most of our days. Now, where is that missing semicolon? If Hollywood had made a movie of what we actually do, no one would ever watch it. And it would just be 8 hours of like stuff like this. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Scroll, scroll. And so there is almost like a fetish of it. Based on a stereotype. And there is a specific genre. Sandra Bullock in The Net, which is a pretty I like that movie. She orders it was like, this movie was made in like 93, and she's ordering pizza online. When I first saw that movie, I was like, wow. Like, she even had an old school pizza builder on this website. Mind blown. But a lot of what we do is based on a stereotype. That's a great point to bring up. Gregory Power says, oh, the famous phrase, I bet her GUI is awesome. Gabe El Cinco says, hackers, they were hacking on a 56K modem, WTF. Gregory says, but Mr. Robot is pretty solid when it comes to depicting hacking. Mr. Robot is a great series. If you haven't watched it yet, developers, I encourage you to, because just one, and if you don't like it, turn it off. If it sucks, listen, I didn't say anything. I don't want to take responsibility for something you hate, but it actually is really good. It's good. It's good. If you actually pause the hacking sequences, you can see that there's actual code rather than like hieroglyphics. There's, you know, Python snippets and stuff. It's actually really interesting. And it's just a dark look into modern programming, modern hacking, modern tech, and just, man, it's kind of dark. Paradoodly says, I might order pizza online in honor of Sandra Bullock. Paradoodly, please don't lie to me. You're going to order pizza whether Sandra Bullock was involved or not. Michael Kornblum says, liked hackers. I'm just kidding, by the way, Paradoodly. But listen, to be totally honest, I love Domino's Pizza Maker. I just love when the toppings fall down onto my pizza. I find that oddly satisfying. And if someone hasn't made a 9-hour compilation of that on YouTube, I don't know why they haven't, because I would probably watch it. Liked Hackers, says Michael Kornblum. It was one of those movies that was so bad that it turned the corner into being kind of good. Paradoodly says, or that bubbly hacker from Criminal Minds. Is that the woman with the cat eye glasses? Or am I thinking CSI? I don't watch any of those shows. I just know the glasses, I know the hair, the blonde hair, and she's like, the one on the computer are solving the crimes. Like, it don't work like that. Every time, it's such a stereotype. And now that I'm thinking of it, it's like, well, no wonder people think this crap is easy. They solve murders in 5 minutes using a hacker, using a programmer. That's not how it works. Paradoodly, thanks for the $5 super chat. I appreciate it. Now I'm watching Hackers and the Net tonight, back to back. Candace says, got me hungry. Ordering pizza right now. The local Domino's and Pizza Huts are going to be flooded, and I'm going to get, somehow all these are going to be charged to my credit card. A pizza on me, just pizza party for the entire world. Just put it on the business card, business expense. Gregory Power says NCIS, the famous 2 people on 1 keyboard to beat a hacker. NCIS, Criminal Minds. How many other shows do we have? So there are actually a couple shows that depict programming in a way that is more accurate. But even still, developers, please, this is Hollywood stuff. So no matter what, there's going to be a stereotype built in no matter what. So we have Mr. Robot, which I'm biased. I think it's a great show. There's also 2 others that I haven't seen, only snippets. So I haven't seen full episodes, but just snippets. But just from the snippets I saw, it was a lot less hackerish. So I don't know, maybe people can add their insights on these 2 shows. Halt and Catch Fire, which I think is based in the 80s. It's been a while since I've seen the clips. Halt and Catch Fire, and then Silicon Valley, which I believe is produced by Mike Judge, who is absolutely brilliant. I love that guy. The creator of Beavis and Butthead, if you didn't know. I think Silicon Valley. I could be wrong about that, actually. I take that back. I don't know who produced Silicon Valley. I'm just hoping Mike Judge produced it. Michael Kornblum says, wants to FedEx a pizza from back east. I read that as wanting to order a FedEx pizza. I'm like, FedEx does pizzas now? I'd try it. By the way, Paradoodly-doo, Sarah or Michael, if you haven't, please share the Discord, because today's video topic is based on what was happening yesterday when Durga asked, why is there so much customer dissatisfaction? And when you're watching people solve crimes on computers in 2 minutes, I can see where people might say, oh, well, how hard can it be? The person from NCIS solved a triple homicide in 5 minutes using Python. Or they wouldn't say Python, using a computer. I need this in 5 minutes. Wait a minute. Where are you getting these ideas? So I want to do a quick poll here. I want to hear from you guys. What are some things people have responded with when you told them you are a web developer or software developer? Let me put it this way. What did people say to you when you told them what you do as a job title? Did you have to explain it? Did they get it pretty well? Because nowadays, when people ask me what I do, I tell them and then I explain it. Because up to that point, people just kind of tilted their head or were like, haha, right on. Web developer was the most troublesome. I used to say program. So I would try out different phrases and different synonyms for what we do or what I do and just see what the reactions were. Programmer worked, but it just didn't have that. It really didn't. I thought it was a little outdated. I do program, but that's only half the story. So programmer, people understood it, but they're thinking okay, you use an Apple II in a closet on the 4th story of an old federal building or something. So I used programmer a few times. That went over okay. Web developer was more often than not a bust. People would just be like, developer. So what do you actually do? So now I say software developer because everyone knows what software is. Software developer, and then I just explain. And so people are like, oh, okay. And so that's why I've had to change it, just because there's been so much misconception. And even learning, like, I don't know, for people who are still in their learning journey, telling friends and family what you're doing, a lot of those friends and family members think you're just messing around playing games on a computer. Really? It's unfortunate because developers work so hard, especially 100% self-taught, because they're competing against college graduates. So you got to try exponentially harder to get into the field when you're competing with college grads who also know how to do development. It's just kind of disappointing sometimes because people do work so hard to get into this industry, and when people dismiss that, especially loved ones, it sucks. But fortunately, we can all relate to that. I think in some way or another, having that person or multiple people who are like, yeah, okay, have a nice life. Like, dude, seriously? I think too, a lot of people are upset, like some low key jealousy. Some people who love you are excited for you. People who don't like you or don't really love you, even if it may be a family member who aren't excited for you, are haters and they're jealous. So of course they're going to dismiss it. Also, some people just don't like seeing other people making a positive change. And if you're coming into this career field from another career field, odds are you're making a big step up. Most people who enter this field from another career aren't dialing down. They're not going from, like, you know, a 7-figure income owning a business to, yes, I'm going to learn web development and work for someone else. It's usually people who are trying to upgrade their life from lower paying jobs and dead end careers, moving up into this career field. And that's so exciting. And then the downside of that is that you have haters who are doing just nothing to improve their lives, and they have the audacity to dump on you for trying to improve yours. Like, seriously, get lost. But yeah, that's kind of a tangent, but it all fits together. Rick Cable, what's going on? Ayan, hello. Candace says, please don't start building Skynet. Code Dragon says, silence is an interesting response. Not Just the Nerd says, my friends just call me when their Wi-Fi doesn't work. That is so funny you say that, because that's another thing. So we have people who are, you know, you have the haters in your life. You have people who are really happy for you, who are just like, yes, good on you. Those are the people you want to be sticking to, because those are the people who believe in you. And then we have people from all walks of life who are in your network who find out you're into computers. I'm using so many air quotes in this live chat. Computers, that you're into computers, and they call you as soon as their Wi-Fi goes out. Can you fix my printer? No, just because I can click some buttons on a machine. And I think this also goes back to the fact that computers have been so brilliantly engineered for the most part that no one thinks about going online. You just do it. It's non-cerebral. No thought necessary. You don't think about, you know, pulling up the lid to your laptop and typing in your password. You don't think when you're clicking cards on your desktop blackjack game. You don't think when you hit print on your printer, but then you're just like, oh, my printer's broken. I better call my friend. I better call RTC. She knows computers. Yeah, this isn't my domain, but I can try. I think most people who do that, they mean well. They mean well, and they really think that, you know, you do computers, so you're really technical. You can help me. I don't know. It's just funny to me more than anything. I'm not annoyed when people ask me for help. I feel like, oh, they trust me to help them, and they understand that I do know a lot about, you know, tech and how computers work and stuff. But I mean, I'm not an engineer. So it's like, oh, do you want to, no one's asked me to build a motherboard from scratch. So fingers crossed. But like just basic repair stuff, it's more funny than anything, but it is an interesting thing. Mustafa says, from a retailer background to web developer. Awesome, Mustafa, that is awesome to hear. We have so many people in this community who are going from retail careers and customer service to web development. It is, I can't speak from everyone, but It is one of the best decisions you could possibly ever make. For anybody right now trying to get into the field. And just to clarify, employers are still hiring. That is one thing I have heard over the last couple of months since anti-Rona, like, oh, these tech companies are hiring. No, no, no. Yes, they are. They've been doing remote interviews. Some people have started doing in-person interviews. Some employers never even stopped doing in-person interviews, at least in this country. I can't speak for countries outside the States. But people are hiring, people are getting paid, people are working from home. I mentioned this in last week's live stream. 2 people in my network got jobs remotely as juniors, new junior developers, new to the industry, got hired as remote. This is something you really hadn't seen a lot of prior to anti-Rona, but you are now because this is a thing. So yeah, I don't want anyone to feel dejected because of that, because there are definitely more hiring companies. Let's see, Jonathan Robinson, what's going on? I was surprised for a software developer, Bachelor of Science at a college, they had a class that was equivalent of an A+ certificate. A lot of people in the comments right now sharing when they got started, at what age, in their 30s, late 30s. And this is a comment and a question rather I get. I think most developers on YouTube get this question. Is it too late to start? The answer is always no. The answer is always no. The answer is always no. It's not too late to start. It is never too late to start. This industry will continue. If you can solve problems, you're going to get paid. And the truth is that software development, whether you're doing web, iOS, Android, IoT, AI, machine learning / AI, game development, even though it's oversaturated, if you can solve a gaming problem, any of those, if you can solve a problem in those fields, you will get paid. Now, not gonna lie, there is rampant age discrimination, especially in Silicon Valley. We've talked about this a lot. However, there are a lot of places that are seriously desperate for any type of help. And if you can solve their problems, you're going to have a job. I have shared this story so many freaking times, I can't even speak. At my enterprise job, IBM affiliate, my coworker, he coded in a proprietary IBM language. His father was born in 1899. This guy was no spring chicken, okay? This guy was old. This guy didn't have any teeth. And he smoked. He was like this guy was stuck in the 80s. He had those big 80s glasses. You guys know, with the metal rims and like the bridge, the little metal bridge right here. I know some of you know, and the tortoiseshell stem. I know some of you know exactly what type of glasses I'm talking about. I think those glasses were 35 years old at least. He had no teeth. He still smoked. He had the 1982 dad glasses. And this guy was getting paid. This isn't uncommon in my area. I see a lot of boomers retiring. This guy he wasn't at this company for 30 years. The company trained him from ground zero. Truth, facts. This guy, I don't remember the exact details of how he ended up here, but the company owner told me this at a one-on-one conversation where he was talking about his team, that this guy with the granddad born in 1899 was desperate for a job. He showed promise, and the owner took him under his wing and trained him on this IBM language. It happens, but it's not a narrative you're going to hear about on YouTube or any other place, because it's not a popular thing. It doesn't happen in Silicon Valley. And so we have to get out of that mindset, especially as aspiring developers, that Silicon Valley is only a small slice of dev jobs. The majority of web developers, of software developers, don't work in Silicon Valley. Facts. So that's just one culture. There are many subcultures, and altogether, completely different cultures out there when it comes to employing people who have skills or at least show the aptitude. Why do you get hired? Now here's a quiz. Here's a pop quiz. Why do brand new developers get hired? Is it because of their amazing resume where they worked at 5 top tech companies? No. Is it because they built a $10 million company and are now just dabbling in web development? It's because in that interview or that series of interviews, they showed aptitude, the ability to learn, the promise. They showed some promising traits. They showed aptitude because as a new hire, you naturally don't know how things are going to work in that company. Or if you've never had a job before, a for-profit, making money, getting a paycheck, getting paid developer job, whether freelancing or in the industry or whatever, you're not going to know how that kind of stuff works. Coding standards, standard operating procedures, in-house documentation, communication skills, all those things are completely new. Even SSHing into a server for most, I don't know if I want to say most, but for a lot of developers who are new, that's a completely new thing. A lot of these things are things you just don't come across in these online training materials, but you showed somewhere in that hiring process, that new hire, that potential new hire showed an aptitude, and that's why they hired you. And so they're taking a chance on you and they're investing in you, not because you have this amazing resume or you just blew the metrics out of the water at Amazon and now you want to work for this small startup in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, which the UP is on my list of travels. I really want to go to Marquette, Michigan. Donovan, have you been? I know my guy Donovan, we may have other people from Michigan. Has anyone here been in the UP? I hear it snows quite a lot, but what about in summer? Like after I launch my platform, I need a vacay and I'm thinking about going to the UP, but I don't know. I'm torn between that and Florida. Just to escape. I need to get off this dadgum computer. Anyways, back to the point. Lots of people and lots of companies out there are willing to take a chance. You just got to look for them. You've got to network. You've got to get out. Now, I know it's been tough with anti-Rona because the meetups have been pushed either completely, they're completely blotto, they're dunzo, or they're online. So it's kind of hard to network that way. But once these meetups get back, start going to some meetups, start enrolling in some Discords, start finding some communities and start networking because there are so many companies out there that are willing to take a chance. You just have to show that aptitude. That is my rant on that. Let's see, let's go to the comments. Jordan says, go to the UP. Is it awesome? Curtis says, listen to this comment. Curtis says, there's many industries that need software people, sometimes trainable and low salary. Yes, especially to your first comment, I wanna emphasize that comment. You don't have to work at a digital agency in order to get a job, or a software firm. That's one place, that's one hub. But you can also look at the actual industries like healthcare or retail, or, I mean, let's see, I'm just trying to think, there's just so many, automotive, what else, pharmaceutical, finance, holy smokes. And once you start separating it by industry, then that's where the opportunities start really exploding. Because just for me personally, when I first started learning software development, learning how to code, I started looking for jobs before I even knew how to code JavaScript. I was just curious. So I would just focus on these agencies, like digital agencies, because I figure, well, why would an entire industry want developers? Wouldn't they just source them from an agency? No, there's a lot of industries and companies that have in-house teams. And so that's just a huge bank of possibilities there. So thanks, Curtis, for sharing that. It's a really good point. And it helps with you as a developer too, because you don't want to go into an industry that you don't like. Like if you hate cars, if you hate motorcycles, you don't want to work for Harley Davidson if they need a web developer. Like focus on, maybe try this technique of focusing on what you like. Like, do you love finance? Do you love the finance industry? Check out finance industry developer jobs, because there's a ton of them. Now, mind you, finance is heavy on Java for a large portion of these applications and these sub-industries, I guess you might say. Just a little heads up, but that's an example of taking an industry and looking at it rather than just software jobs at an agency or software jobs at a software development company. But yeah, I mean, the opportunities are seriously everywhere. Let's see. Lots of comments. Thanks, everyone. Jay Cruz, how's it going? Welcome, everyone. If you're just tuning in, today we are talking about being a developer. Oh, it can't be that hard, can it? Talking about some of these attitudes towards software developers, how we might be able to counter them, and if they're even worth countering. Of course, delving into some other topics as well, and talking about how some of these stereotypes came about. Now, fortunately, no matter what the stereotype is, the reality is that our career field is generally very high paying, especially once you get into third, fourth year. That's where you're going to see some serious gains. Not always, but your first year, it's the same. This is where this career field ceases. It stops being a unicorn, because your first year is just like any other career field. You are the plebe, the new hire. You are the one who needs to learn the most. And so you're just usually not making those six figures. Because from an employer standpoint, how should I explain? Yes, you're new, so you're not expected to create a ton of value, but at some point within that year, you should be creating value. Let me put it this way. If you're getting paid $60,000 a year as a new hire, you need to not only pay your wages, but you need to pay the wages of others and the person who owns that company. So for some people, for some company owners, they have a metric for that. There's different metrics for measuring a person's production value. So if you're getting paid $60,000 as a salary for that first year and you're not producing like 120, 180, 240, $300,000 worth of total value, it depends on the company, but it's not good. And what I'm saying is it's not good enough to just pay your wages. Why would they have you there? They brought you there to produce value for that company in both some in the immediate term and some in the mid-term, the long term. You know, because this is a difficult one to tabulate and calculate, because the value we create isn't an overnight thing. Like, okay, I built this feature on this e-commerce app. And let's say you built this feature on this e-commerce app and it took you 4 months. And so you get paid 4 months worth of wages. You deploy that application. The value of that application is not going to be reflected in the first couple of days. Like, oh, I paid this person 4 months of salary. This application isn't performing. This is a long-term thing. And I mean, there's a metric for everything, and there are ways to measure its initial success. But I mean, that is something that is in our favor, that, you know, the stuff we create doesn't have just an overnight, oh, it made us $5 million overnight. Great job, RTC. Like, the stuff I was working on, the stuff I do work on, everything I code, everything I develop, everything I design is for a long-term purpose. And so the thing that I spent 4 months building is going to pay off year after year after year. So in some ways for that company, what I built is a source of passive income for them, because I built it once, but they potentially have 1 million people over a 5-year period paying money to this company due to something I built. Let's say it's like a checkout or something. I built a cart. This cart took me 4 months, but millions of people have been using it, and millions of dollars maybe even billions has cycled through over 10 years. So it's a pretty good investment if you're paying that person 60K as a salary and that person turned it into $1 million over 5 years, or even more than that. But that's the thing about being a junior and these projects in general. It doesn't matter if you're junior, mid-level, or senior. The projects that you work on are not going to be immediate cash cows for your company. So thanks, Chiquito. I almost drank half a bottle of this huge thing. 1.4 liters of love, developers. Anyways, I want to thank Paradoodly-Doo, Sarah, and Michael for being amazing mods today. It's 5:24 in the PM Central Standard Time. Just wanted to do this live and see how you all are doing. Thanks for lighting up the chat today. Randy Miller and Dana and Jax. Dana, where have you been? What's up, Randy? Both YouTube channel members, thanks for your support. Millionaires go to the UP in summer to live in 70-degree summers. Randy, you're speaking my language. That's exactly what I need. I can't do the heat. I used to live in Texas and I don't know how. And I don't know how. Anywho, good to see you both and all my other peeps. If you want to continue the conversation, I think Discord is up now and online. So head on over. I am working very hard with my people to get realtoughkenny.io, this new learning platform, as good as it can be, as just, it's one of those things where it's just like, it's my baby. And I have so much to say about it. I can't even, I'm just going 500 places. So I'm going to just hold this up. This is the landing page design for realtoughkenny.io, launching next month. Oh, I said it. It's launching in August. It's launching in August. We're going to be doing some live streams with that and talking more about it. And it's just designed for you to land a job, level up, get a raise. That's it. Not teaching you about JavaScript, the execution stack, or hoisting. There are 10,000 plus places literally you can learn that. And those are all cool things, but that's not what we do here. So excited to talk more about that. Developers, it's been great chatting. Thank you so much for your support. I will see you in the Discord. More videos coming up. I've been busy with the platform, so I haven't had time to record many pre-recorded videos, if that makes sense. But always a fun time hanging out with you guys. As always, thanks for watching. As always, this is an awkward goodbye. So I'll just sit here and be quiet until my sentence finishes on YouTube. This is awkward. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Are you feeling awkward?